Hey everyone, Joe here with the Idaho Prepper channel, and in today's video, I'm going to be cooking up a bunch of ground beef and then getting it freeze dried. So if you guys have been following the news, you've been following the prices of things, you know that ground beef, just ground beef, is getting really expensive. So at my store right now at Costco, I'm spending upwards of $8 a pound for lean ground beef, and those prices are projected to go even higher. So what I'm going to do and what I suggest you guys do is stock up on beef now, especially if you guys are big beef eaters, your family's into beef. Stock up on this stuff now and get it preserved, whether you have a freeze dryer, which I would strongly suggest because there is a lot of talk about there being brownouts this year and blackouts because of the heat waves and the demand for power and energy. So I'm basically going to make sure that all of this beef is going to be shelf stable. So if the power goes out, I don't have a bunch of beef and meat going bad in my freezer. So I strongly suggest that you guys, if you're on the fence about getting a freeze dryer, go ahead. I'd say go ahead and splurge, get a freeze dryer, get that beef freeze dried. Or if you don't have the money for that, get a pressure canner. That's a really good way to preserve beef as well. You can learn how to pressure can pretty easy, get all that beef nice and preserved in your can. So today we're just going to be, like I said, getting this cooked up and freeze dried. Now I have some marinara here, some onions, some garlic, salt, and pepper. I'm keeping this real simple. I got about 5 pounds of beef in my cooler right here, chilling because it's hot out here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook everything outside in my Griswold Dutch oven here. And I'm going to mix the onion, the garlic, salt, and pepper with all of it. And then I'm going to divide all that beef into 2 batches. One, I'm just going to keep it plain with the salt, pepper, onions, and garlic. And then the other batch, I'm going to mix with some marinara. So I'm just going to have some beef marinara sauce. And then we're going to get it all sealed up in Mylar. So I think I laid everything out. So let's go ahead, get our beef out of our set power cooler. And these are great. If you guys have ever seen one of these set powers, basically they'll keep all of your food nice and cool or even frozen without any ice. So great investment. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description for that. But let's go ahead. We'll put our beef to the side here. All right. So I don't know how you guys do it around the world, but this is how I like to chop up an onion. So basically just cut it in half, cut the ends off like so, and that allows me to peel the first layers. And from what I've heard, you always want to get rid of the first 2 layers. You want that wrapper layer gone, and then you want that first onion layer gone. So that's how I do it. All right, now I'm going to keep these onion pieces really small. I'm doing like half inch squares basically. Now we have all of our onion dice. I'm going to go ahead and put this in our pot. And now we'll go ahead and get our garlic all chopped up here. All right, so that's pretty good. Now, I'm actually not going to add this garlic to our pot just yet because I don't want it to burn. So I'm going to go ahead and put this off to the side. And then I'm going to take our ground beef here and I'm going to add this to the pot, our salt and pepper, and then start cooking this. Okay, now I'm just going to add some salt. I got some good pink Himalayan salt right here. So this is going to be real healthy ground beef. And that's one of the biggest advantages to having, preserving your own food is you can make it exactly how you want it. You can have healthy food, whereas, that store-bought stuff, it tastes good, but it's not healthy. So It's really nice to be able to preserve your own food and have total control, you know, over the contents of it. Go ahead, add some pepper, and we will start mashing this. Now you notice I didn't add any oil. Thing is, especially when you're freeze drying, you don't want to have a bunch of oil in here. So once this is all cooked up, I am not only going to drain it of all of the oil, but I'm actually going to rinse it a little bit too. All right, our ground beef is cooking up nicely. I think we're ready for the garlic. Okay, guys, I think we are done cooking this ground beef. So I'm going to go ahead, turn off our burner, and get this upstairs, and I'm going to put it in a strainer, rinse it a little bit, and then we're going to get it out here, put it on our freeze dry trays, and then get it in our freezer and pre-freeze it, and then we'll get it into our freeze dryer and get it freeze dried. Definitely going to need another jar. I think we are good to go. And yeah, all I have to do is press start. All right, we're going to let that do its thing, and then we'll be back once it's done. All right, so our ground beef is done freeze drying. So I'm going to go ahead, get this opened up, and get our ground beef sealed up in Mylar bags. Oh yeah, that is definitely done. Very nice. We'll check out our meat sauce one. Yep, definitely done. All right, you guys, well, the freeze drying process of our ground beef is complete. So everything turned out good. The ground beef turned out good, and the ground beef marinara sauce turned out really good. So I'm excited actually to reconstitute this stuff and see what it tastes like. Might have to do a video where I taste test this stuff at a later date. But one thing I did learn, you know, if you're going to freeze dry something with a sauce and something without a sauce, make sure to do them in different runs, because anything with a sauce requires a longer freeze dry time. So, you know, I had this in there and it didn't do anything. It doesn't affect it, but it's just kind of overkill. I didn't need to freeze dry the ground beef by itself for so long. Now, with that said, I just want to talk about the advantages and disadvantages to preserving beef, okay? And in the prepper sphere, for lack of a better term, the two most popular forms of preserving meat is pressure canning and freeze drying. And there are major advantages and disadvantages to each one. And I'll go through those real quick right now. Now, when it comes to pressure canning, I will say maybe the biggest advantage, and there's two huge advantages. One is price tag. A pressure canner is going to run you about $350, whereas a freeze dryer is going to run you somewhere between $1,800 to $3,000. Okay, but the biggest advantage, in my opinion, too, is that you get to preserve all that fat when you're pressure canning. Okay, and that is something that when I was going through this process and I had to cook all this beef and then drain out all that fat and then even rinse it off to get that good preservation in the freeze dryer, I was not too thrilled about that because if for those of you who know, the beef fat is like the most essential part of the beef, and to lose that like really bums me out. It's just critical for your brain function, vitamins, and all that stuff. So that is the big advantage that pressure canners have over freeze dryers. The other thing is time. Pressure canning your food, probably take you a whole day, whereas freeze drying this food took me 2.5 days. Now, granted, I didn't have to do much. It was just, I put everything on a tray, put it in the machine, close the door and push a button. I go to bed and then it beeps when it's done. So whereas, when you're pressure canning, there's a lot more physical labor involved with getting everything in there and doing all the temperatures, things like that. There's a much bigger learning curve with pressure canning. You got to make sure that you get it right because if you don't do it right, all sorts of bad things can happen. Like you don't get a proper seal, you can get botulism in the can, which would kill you, so you want to be really careful about that. But once you figure out how to do it, it's a really good way to preserve your food. Now, the advantages to having a freeze dryer is that it's a lot lighter, okay? And maybe a lot of people, the other thing I was going to say is it's also probably has a longer shelf life. Maybe some people might disagree with me on that, but it's lighter. It has a longer shelf life. This reconstitutes a lot better. It has a better flavor. I think, in my opinion, once you reconstitute, it tastes really fresh. Something that you probably wouldn't get pressure canning your meats. It's going to taste like boiled and things like that. So you get to retain all the flavor and nutrients with freeze drying. And it takes up a lot less room on your shelf, so you can pack a lot more away. The other thing is you don't have to worry about, the jars falling over and breaking and losing all your food. You put these in some Mylar bags, put them in a 5-gallon bucket or a tote, and forget about it. You don't have to worry about it. Earthquakes, whatever, these things will survive the apocalypse. But these things, typically, if you put an oxygen absorber and you seal this up really well, this will last indefinitely. I mean, this has like an expiration, they call it an expiration date, but that's just, the date when it starts to deteriorate, but that date is 25 years. So you got 25 years before this thing shows just the slightest bit of degradation. Okay, so really good advantage in that area. Other thing, I think that freeze-dried food, maybe a lot of people don't think about this, makes a great bartering item. Imagine if we were in a famine or any type of economic collapse and you needed more ammo. Imagine having some ground beef, you know what I mean, to trade. Very few people are going to have this. And I can imagine something like this just being like gold in a situation like that. So lots of advantages and disadvantages to both. Now, with that said, I want to say too, and this is something I get a lot of grief for in my comments when I am, promoting a freeze dryer. I'm under no illusion how much these things cost. And in all honesty, if I didn't have this channel and I didn't have affiliates like Stay Fresh reaching out to me and and doing these exchanges where they give me a freeze dryer in exchange for content, I wouldn't have something like that. It's not in my budget. So I understand, the cost of something like this, and so keep that in mind. Now, I will say, if you do have it in your budget, it's a great investment. If I had the money, I would definitely buy one, because it's also one of those things, much like the solar generator, where I just didn't really see the value in it until I owned one. And then once I had one, I was like, oh yeah, this is nice. You know, there's a lot of cool features. You can start businesses with them. My kids freeze dry candy, and we go to the 4-H market, and they sell all the freeze dried candy and stuff. So there's a lot of good things that you can do with freeze dryers. But just wanted to throw that out there, you know, make sure that you guys know I'm under no illusion, you know, of how much these things cost. But if you do have it in your budget, great investment. I'll make sure to leave links in the description along with discount codes for the freeze dryer, my freeze dryer. And, you know, the one I have, like I said, it's Stay Fresh, comes with the commercial grade pump. So it actually freeze dries the food a lot quicker. And you know, the biggest advantage to that freeze dryer, it's the last thing I'll say, is it has this component. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description of this video on my first video on that machine where I go through everything. But there is a component in this this particular freeze dryer that is unlike most freeze dryers, where it basically shuts off, it seals out the air between the outside and the inside a lot better than most. And it basically makes it so that there is no possibility of cross-contamination with oil vapors, okay? And you probably don't know what I'm saying here, but the pump itself will create oil vapor. And sometimes with the cheaper units, that oil vapor can get sucked back into the machines and land on the food and contaminate the food. And now it's not super harmful for you, but if you guys are trying to do things with your freeze dryer, like make medicinal herbs, you know, things like that, or you just don't want any oil vapor on your food, this is the machine to get. It's one of the, you know, biggest advantages to this machine. So that's going to do it for me today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section if you have any questions for me. And again, if you're interested in anything you saw in today's video, like this freeze dryer, I'll make sure to leave links in the description along with a big discount code. So if you haven't done so already, please make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, go ahead and hit that notification bell. So with that said, until the next time, stay prepared.